Since 2004, changes have been made in Key Stage 1. While national curriculum tests are still compulsory, teachers have been given more freedom to assess their pupils. How can teachers make the most of their newfound freedom? We visited head teachers at 5 schools who are at the forefront of good practice in assessment to learn more about how they ensure that their summative assessment is valid, reliable, practicable and has as much impact as possible. And we've spoken to Wyn Harlan, one of the country's top academics involved in research into assessment in education.
If you improve their ability to assess, you're also improving their teachers' teaching skill, their understanding of learning, their understanding of the learning goals. All those are byproducts, if you like, of taking assessment more seriously.
Now, all teachers now get planning, preparation and assessment time. And I think it's important that they remember that it's not just planning time, so that it's time to look at the children's assessments, to see what needs to be done. So the assessment is informing the future planning.
The schools we visited have made sure that their criteria for assessment are clearly defined. And they found that breaking level descriptors down into their elements is an efficient way of ensuring accuracy and aiding teacher observation.
Criteria have 2 functions, you see. They not only enable you to take evidence and see to what extent it meets the criteria, but it also focuses your observation and the collection of evidence.
The criteria for assessment are decided between the teaching team. So before they implement a task, if it's one we've designed ourselves, the criteria are already given and they're taken directly from the national curriculum level descriptors. So we've got a national standard set.
And they can be very broad, but they do have to be very clear. And clear doesn't necessarily mean very specific, because if you start being very, very detailed, you really come down to something that can be so mechanical that it's not really very helpful.
Why do you think that?
So how do you make criteria clear and helpful? At Tollgate Primary, Emma Nichols and her team have devised a system for levelling children and their work.
What we've done is taken the national curriculum objectives in speaking, listening and reading and then mapped those out onto our own scale. For each level, it picks out the objectives that children need to meet, and then so what the teachers actually do is, say for example within reading, they will listen to a child read and then make notes as the child's reading and tick relevant objectives that the children are reaching, and then they're able to count those up and then match it to a scale which indicates whether or not they're secure in the level or just achieving the level or working, at a higher level. It's really important for us because we need to make sure that we're very consistent in our levelling and that we've got, more accurate teacher assessments. So we've got teachers of varying experience and it really does support them in deciding, where their children are at and also where they're wanting to go with their children. It supports their planning.
Lorna Walter found it's easy to get bogged down in finding criteria for assessment.
It is really difficult because there are also lots of companies out there that will sell you criteria, and there are lots of tests that you could buy, but in the end you have to decide on one and work your way through that. And that took us a long time because too many of us keep searching the internet. And, I found another way of doing it, another. So in the end we came up with a definitive. But we've used a bit of everybody's. We're a bit like magpies, really. We steal.
That gives us a really clear distinction of our level 4 children.
So which members of the school community need to be informed about assessment? And how important is it that the techniques are clear?
It's very important that the techniques used are transparent. The whole teaching team has to understand them very clearly, and more importantly, the children have to understand them very clearly. If they don't know where they're going or why they're going, they can't get there. But the other people that it has to be very transparent to are the parents. They have to understand how their children are progressing and have faith and trust in the systems. And quite clearly, the governing body have to also be able to monitor the progress of the school.
Making it clear what criteria are being used how that is used in relation to the evidence, what kind of evidence is taken into account, so that anybody, pupils, parents, other teachers, can see the process and can judge for themselves whether it's reliable and fair.
In Ongar Place, teachers work hard to involve pupils in their own assessment, and targets are clear.
Have a think and think something that you could do better in your writing. All right, and I'm going to ask each of you.
Make it nice on the line.
Make the letters sit on the line.
Make it more neater.
So your handwriting, make handwriting a bit neater. Right? Well, I've thought of something to try and help you with your writing. And on your target cards, you've got new target. Okay, so that's going to be on your table when you're working to remind.
We set the targets for what we want the children to learn within lessons. So at the beginning of a session, the children know exactly what it is, what the learning intention is. And then during the lesson, the children are also aware that their performance is measured on how close they get to meeting that objective.
Yeah? So might have to write that on the bottom of here.
And at Sherwin Knight, they've developed a system for involving parents in assessment too. Each child has a blue folder that teachers add to on a daily basis, recording observations, information about ongoing assessment, progress, examples of work and children's future targets. Parents are encouraged to look at these whenever they want.
There's a lot of things written down, so there's a lot of kind of policy stuff that you're given. We're aware that there are blue files that are available outside the classroom. We can pick them up and look at them whenever we would like to. Because I understand how the assessment is being done and the process around that, I can give as a parent more meaningful information, and then I know what I'm getting back is more meaningful. So in that way, we can have a more meaningful conversation about the assessment.
What works in one subject may not work so well in another. Dave Maris at Links Primary believes that a creative approach is vital and opens up many more possibilities for assessment.
You've got to be creative with assessment. I mean, our basic sort of premise here is that every child's good at something. It's your job to find out what that is. Formal, maths or literacy tests won't tell you that child is a brilliant artist or they're a very good sports person. But all those things are important as well.
If you're really going to assess the kind of outcomes that we want, like problem solving, like good kind of communication, creativity is really important. And the opportunity to be creative must surely be welcome to teachers, I would think.
The new freedom at Key Stage 1 has allowed teachers to learn from the experience of early years staff for more creative methods of assessing children.
I think in Key Stage 1 you've really got to have really keen observation skills of children, and we can learn a lot from our foundation colleagues because they set up activities, they have focus groups, and so they're able to map children very individually and really get to know their attainment at a personalised level.
In Lyme Regis, Mary and
Nice big voice so I can hear you.
In Lyme Regis, Mary and England.
To help the reliability and impact of assessment, Emma Nichols has found it helpful if methods and information are transferred between key stages.
Key Stage 1 assessment starts in the foundation stage and we follow the stepping stones and early learning goals. In the first term of year 1, as part of the learning journey, we look at continuing the profiles for each child, and the teacher will do focused observations of children, and they will highlight areas that the children have achieved. So following the same principles as in foundation stage.
At Sherwin Knight, there is provision in place to aid the transfer of information about assessment from year to year.
Well, the foundation stage to Key Stage 1, the teachers all get 1 day to converse with each other because they'll be going from one key worker to maybe more than one class. So it's very important that all the adults talk to each other about the children individually. So that means that you have to put supply work into place. From year group to year group, people get directed time. So when it would be a staff meeting, it might be a few staff meetings are put to one side so that the teachers can exchange the information. So as well as having the physical file to read, it's nice to have that conversation because that gives you a flavour of the child.
So is it important to use a range of methods? How does that help assessment to be both reliable and comprehensive?
How did you decide which were old and which were new?
I don't think you should just use one method. I think that because not everything's right for some things, so you have to mix and match.
You have a full stop and a capital letter there, so carry on.
And just as one method of teaching children to read won't help all children learn to read, one method of assessment won't help all children. Well, it won't help the teachers know where to go next.
So we have nationally produced, published diagnostic testing. We have post-it notes of significant observations and small examples of work. We have what we call key activity planners, which are whole school tasks, which every child in the school takes part in. We have the QCA optional tests, and we have the Petworth Area Schools writing task. We have unaided writing, which takes place at the end of every half term, which checks the children's progress in writing across a whole range of genre. And then we also have exemplars of work, folders and portfolios of work, where we just collect evidence of good quality work, which teachers and children can use to assess their own work against and actually set expectations as well.
The schools featured in this programme have found that it helps if the methods used to record for assessment are simple. Jane Kent has introduced a technique for recording important observations to Northchapel.
You just carry around with you a set of post-it notes, and when you see something happening which is quite significant, or hear a child saying something, you witness some kind of significant learning, you just jot it down with the child's name and the date, and then you can pop it back in your pocket, or you can stick it on a side somewhere. Then you incorporate those observations straight into a file. You don't have to write them out, you don't have to put them on a special pro forma, you just collect them. And that's really simple and really easy, and it's not too time consuming.
We don't want to have tick sheets and very formal forms that the teachers have got to fill in, because they haven't got the time to do that and be giving their full attention to the children.
Okay, do you want to change
So in
that then?
Ongar Place, a simple sheet was devised, giving space to make quick notes.
Okay.
By having observation notes, the teacher is only noting down significant changes or progress. They're not having to, go down lists and tick off things, which takes a fair bit of time.
Much as simple methods of recording observations are useful, clear methods of recording data are helpful in order to make good use of assessment. Dave Maris colour codes his results.
Each particular level, for instance, has a different colour code, so you can see very clearly and very quickly whether a child has been on level 2, for instance, for any length of time, or what sort of progress they've made, or not, as the case may be.
This system makes it easy to feed results back and help future planning.
There's no point in just simply doing a test, just for the sake of doing a test, unless you have a purpose behind it, unless it's going to inform your future planning, unless it's going to inform your reports to parents or something. There really isn't a lot of point in doing it.
In these schools, head teachers and teachers have found systems and techniques that work for them and their pupils. Jane Kent is clear about the value of assessment in her school.
The outcome of good quality, summative and formative assessment is very, very simple. It's raised standards. Children's learning improves, because if assessment is rigorous and thorough, then progression is clear.
You can access some of the assessment material featured in this programme on our website.